Welcome to Growing Bremerton Together with Mayor Patty Lent. My guest today is Roxanne Bryson, Executive Director of Holly Ridge. October is National Disability Employment Month. We're going to learn about her services and how it helps our residents. Stay with us. Welcome to Growing Bremerton Together with Mayor Patty Lent. I have a special guest today, and it's Roxanne Bryson. She is Executive Director, boss, developer. She is everything with Holly Ridge. We're going to learn about what Holly Ridge means to this community and to the people that live here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to have you. I've known you for a number of years. I've walked dogs with you in the parks when you've raised funds on Walk Your Pooch, and the first time that we've had a chance to be in the studio and talk.
I'm excited to be here today.
Thanks, Roxanne. How did you end up in Bremerton, and where were you born and raised?
Oh, really?
Your history.
I'm a logger's daughter from Salton, Washington, and left to go to school in the University of Washington, Seattle, and started working at Progress School in Seattle, which is a state institution.
I know of it.
And I didn't like it. I didn't like the environment, and picketed the gates of Progress School in 1972. As an employee, I picketed for the residents.
Now, did they close Fircrest the same time they closed?
No, it's still open.
It is still open.
Yes. So I moved at the age of 23 years of age over to Kitsap, over to Bremerton in 1975, and opened up a group home because I wanted people to live in a more family environment. And so I took my values from working out of Seattle and seeing that there needed to be something different.
You know what's exciting? You and I, women, and the difference that can be made, because back in the 70s, that's when Gloria Steinem was saying, burn the bra, or women unite. But you did something remarkable because you mentioned your values, but you had a vision for how people should have a quality of life. And your group home, so how long did you have that?
I had it for 2 years, and it was actually ARC of Kitsap County helped me establish it. So my connection with the ARC of Kitsap County goes back to 75. And funds were starting to dwindle at that time. Our governor had put some cuts into the developmental disabilities budget, state budget. So I tried doing runaway teenagers and realized that that was not the population that I needed to be working with. I did not, it just wasn't my passion. So I got out of it.
And then your next step?
Well, actually it's, I consulted for Holly Ridge Center in the late 70s, at the very end of 79, and went to work for Kitsap Community Resources, which was Kitsap Community Action back then, and loved it, had lots of fun creating. I was a community developer for them. And my passion with them was creating the Kitsap Community Clinic, which is now called Peninsula Community Health Services.
Oh, that's where they started.
So I loved that child and seeing it through infancy and out on its own. And also became a parent at that time and ended up back at Holly Ridge because of my child. So
your child has some special needs.
He was medically fragile and hearing impaired. So he went to Holly Ridge for speech therapy for 2.5 years. And so it was, I had home-based services because I worked. And it was interesting to be on the parent side after being on the staff side.
What's great is that the parents that come to you can actually, because of your passion, but you can actually explain to them any differences they're going to see, or the training for the child is as much for the parent. because they need
Yes,
to
it
work
is.
at home to continue moving that child where it can take and have more flexibility or more livability, I want to say.
Well, parents are a child's first teachers. So Holly Ridge doesn't step in to necessarily take over. We actually go into the home or at one of our facilities to work with families or grandparents or child care worker on how to work with the child themselves. So an hour of speech therapy twice a week and an hour of physical therapy once a week or twice a week and playgroup. It's a 24/7 job with infants and toddlers with special needs. So it really is teaching the family.
I
and how
should
to
have
work
lived
with
in
it.
Bremerton when I was a little baby. I was tongue-tied as a child, so I went through some speech therapy, but my parents didn't recognize that I was tongue-tied until I was 4. So I had an older sister that anything I wanted, she would just do for me, so I didn't have to speak. But my tongue, I talked like this. And I didn't have to talk much because I had the older sister. What I remember most is having a pencil under my tongue in kindergarten and first grade, giving me some strength because I had a very lazy tongue. And today you'd never know that I had speech therapy for 2 or 3 years growing up. I share that because sometimes a parent won't recognize that. And this is where, again, you come in when they might bring them in and say, someone's slow at hearing or speaking or moving, and you can examine them and find out what the needs are at that particular time. What age do you start working with babies?
Well, we serve birth to 3-year-olds. As soon as they turn 3, they go on into the public special ed area
Program.
unless they don't qualify. 30% of our infants and toddlers move on without requiring any other services. And so
because you caught them early.
That's why early intervention is so important. It really does make an impact on children's developmental skills. So and that's why we spend the bulk of our time in the community trying to encourage it's better to be safe than sorry. The earlier the better. And what gift would it be to be evaluated and know that your child is developing right on key? I mean, that's good news.
That's great
Very
news.
good news. So,
And you work with older. So after that 3 years, you also work with young adults and adults. So how does that program expand?
well, we do supported employment. So we do job training and job placement for individuals all over the map. So they're not necessarily developmentally delayed. They could be traumatic brain injury. They could be somebody who was in a car accident, is physically disabled. So it's people who are just needing a little assistance in finding a job, or maybe needing a tremendous amount of coaching while on the job. So it's a very wide population. Anybody who is experiencing barriers to employment. It could be somebody who has from a birth defect all the way to an accident or even a stroke.
I love that barrier to employment or barrier to quality of life. It takes away some of that stigma. And
We all have barriers.
oh, we do. And we're starting, I know Kitsap Community Resources is looking at ACEs. So we're looking at children that have, ACEs stands for ACEs.
Oh, well, we're do ACEs as well. Now you caught me.
So we're together. It's childhood experiences. So adverse childhood experiences. And it can just be, it doesn't have to be neglect or abuse. It can be other things that we want to recognize when they're little so that we can bring some resiliency to this child. You can't always change a habitat or a condition, but you can allow that child to have resiliency to accept and move on and have that better life.
And we also at Holly Ridge, and especially in the infant toddler program, are working on ACEs on the basis that children that are in hospitals for months at a time with lots of different surgeries. That is a childhood adverse
Of course,
experience.
the experience.
And so even me as an example, my child had 28 surgeries by the time he was 6 years old. And so hospitalization was a norm for him. And so it doesn't have to be a
Defect.
defect, and it doesn't have to be adverse experiences can come just from a divorce. So it's amazing how we see children and they respond so well to that human touch. And know that it's a safe environment. It's not much different when I see a child with autism in our program, and we may dim the lights for them because the lights are too bright, and we may make sure that there aren't loud noises around. So it's sensory, and just making sure that the environment is working for children.
How does that pool work for some of those youngsters?
Our hydrotherapy pool?
Yes.
It's awesome. We do warm water immersion for kids, mostly with cerebral palsy, but our physical therapy happens in warm water, and it's much more buoyant for them. It's not as painful. But I will say that our speech therapists have also found a way to use the pool, even though it's not best practice, and that's what we like to say that we do. And that's because the pool room has got an echo in it. And so when they're in the pool, they're learning how to breathe and yelling it out, and they can hear their voice, their sound that they make echo in the room. So the speech therapists have found a way to get into the hydrotherapy
Thinking
pool.
out of the box. That is exciting that we've got this. I don't know of any other place that does this. Roxanne, how are you funded? How does Holly Ridge continue to do the great things you're doing?
Well, it's through the generous donations of our community. We are a United Way agency and a combined federal campaign agency, but we do fundraisers throughout the year, and then we also do a fee for service. So we have, there isn't a rock that we don't overturn.
You're in a capital campaign because you've got some expansion that is needed. I know I've been out to where your hydro pool is and that facility, and that's on Holly.
That's on Taylor Road.
Taylor Road,
Yeah.
off of.
North Lake Way, which is off of Chico Way.
But it's because you're for the entire county. It's not just Bremerton, but you have lots of people from Bremerton, and you are. It's something unique because of our military. If a military family has a child that is born or is recognized that they need your services, tell us a little about that program.
Well, it's the Exceptional Family Member Program that they enroll their children in, and which allows them to homestead in Kitsap County, and it doesn't affect their career because there are many opportunities for them throughout the different bases around this county. But we're one of 5 bases in the nation, so there's only 2 on the West Coast, and that is in San Diego and here at Kitsap. So we do have higher per capita of military families in early intervention than our sister agencies in other counties.
What's great is that these are young families, and because of their military and defense jobs, they move. So that first 3 years is just vital in how that child's going to take and respond and survive and thrive.
And we've seen some military families come back. They've left the area after 4 or 5 years, and they've come back because their second child may have a different kind of disability, and they're coming back into program because of the Exceptional Family Member Program.
So one more time, the ARC just awarded you a wonderful award.
And you.
And me, because we both support the ARC. But how does the ARC and Holly Ridge intertwine?
Well, we've been intertwined since,
as you say, the
1960 but the agency Holly Ridge and ARC in 1963, the founders of Holly Ridge Center were also the same of the same founders and board members of the ARC of Kitsap County.
I didn't know that.
We share a lot of old timers that used to be involved in the 60s. We're connected that way. And then also throughout the years, we've been working with ARC. They have a special dance program on Friday night that I'm sure most of the people in our community are familiar with.
Yes. About 300. You have a big crowd that's like to go there and socialize. They have a dance.
Live music.
Yes.
Yes, it's fun.
It is.
It's fun. But the award for both you and I, which was a nice surprise, I was very humbled to get the Lou Haddon Award.
And she was one of the beginning founders.
In 1938, she was the founder of the Washington State ARC, and that was Senator Lou Haddon. And then her daughter, Senator Frances Haddon Morgan, was the instrumental with the Frances Haddon Morgan Center, which was a state institution,
Right.
and then also Holly Ridge Center as well. So it's so the legacy that both agencies have a lot of people in common in the
History.
development of those two agencies.
And Lulu was the first female legislator in Olympia. So when you talk about Bremerton and you talk about the services that are available, it's amazing that our population is 40,500, but the entire county is that 250,000, and your outreach is this entire county.
Correct, and Mason, North
And
Mason.
Mason,
Right. We're the Center of Excellence, the first Center of Excellence in Washington State for birth to 3 in autism, and we are serving on average about over 1,200 infants and toddlers a year
A year.
for the last couple of years. I don't know what our numbers will look like this year, but they're over the last 11 years, I believe we've increased by 67%. So every year we're getting about
Seeing
20% more.
Right. You know, we have an opioid epidemic. We have some drugs that have expanded not just in our state and our community, but across the nation. Some of this has to take, and when someone's pregnant, it has to affect that fetus and that newborn baby. So maybe the influx of some of your people, we need to take, and as we work together, as you get funding, as you get supported, as you get recognized, and more people are aware of what we have to service people that have needs, we also need to look at prevention. And I think what I like about our public health district is that they have those visiting nurses. When you said how vital it is for that infant to be analyzed or recognize that there might be a hearing problem or a speech problem, if you didn't have a visiting nurse, how would someone recognize that? So I know you work with public health as well, and you still work with the Kitsap Peninsula Services.
Correct. Also, the Harrison and the Naval Hospital both do hearing tests. That's one of the traditional tests now that all children receive at birth. So they're really key at the birthing process, but also I think our community health providers are a key also to picking up early signs.
And I want to just one plug for Bremerton Central Lions Club. Sight and hearing is one of their things that they work on, and they bought one of those first machines. It was $700 just for the first machine to test that hearing, and I think they do that within hours of
Yes,
infant's born.
they do.
So again, early evaluation, detection makes all the sense in the world. Perfect world. Your affiliation, and you go back 45 years working in this needed area of a life of an individual. Where do you see what you need the most? As a city, how can we work in concert with you and with the ARC for either more people or more employees? How do we expand this, and how do we make this better for the residents that live here?
To really be honest, I think it is
Financial.
it's not just financial. It's including the population in their life. Our main it's increasing capacity throughout the community, not just what Holly Ridge does or what the ARC does or what other agencies do. It's basically including the developmentally delayed children and adults in your life. In your perfect example, we have a client in the Adult Employment Services program who's working for the Kitsap airporter. And he loves his job.
Great.
And they had a employee picnic. And he was really excited to go to the employee picnic. And we went there to support him in order for him to make those personal relationships. And that's what's important, is if this community could make a friend who has a developmental disability, I would applaud you for doing that. I really would. I mean, that's what our population needs, is to be included. So if you're an employer, hire someone. If you are a neighbor, go introduce yourself.
You know, having that, we all share this world and this earth. Our Beyond Accessible Playground was a reason for that, because there are kids that are born with spinal bifida or MS, and when they're in a wheelchair, or it's awkward for them even to be in school, and the other kids kind of look at them because they don't see them all the time, and so they'll either point or say, what's wrong, or what happened, if that acceptance. So this playground, which is so busy when it's not raining, year-round, it has kids that can operate out of their wheelchairs, but they're with all the other kids. And so it's something that it's visual. They're interacting, and you don't see the difference. So it's not awkward for the person that has some special needs, and it's not awkward or strange for just any individual that doesn't have them. And what you said about interacting, I do a lot with our traumatic brain injury, and they have fundraisers, and it can be from an accident, it can be from a number of things where it affects you, and someone will look normal. Roxanne, you and I could just be like this, and we could have a traumatic brain injury where we can't hold a job in a certain capacity. Our memory doesn't click, but you wouldn't know it. And yet we have that barrier to a job, or that barrier to get along in life and expand our skills. And you work with these adults as much as you do children. As the director, how do you hire the skilled people that are actually working to make a difference in these lives?
It's mostly looking for people who have the compassion, but we also do a tremendous amount of training in order to get them to be able to model and to coach individuals on the job. So there is a number of community colleges. Highline is one that we do send staff to get a certificate in supported employment. So staff for the adult program don't necessarily come with us with the right skill set, but they have the passion for the population. They may have had a relative, they may have had a neighbor, or they have just seen somebody on the street or in the checkout stand, and they started talking with somebody who is there bagging their groceries. So it's people come to us from all walks of life.
Yes.
And so as an employer, we actually invest in our staff that are going to be job coaches and employment job developers.
With the increase in numbers of people that are now you're seeing, is this something that would be worthwhile for Olympic College to have a curriculum so they wouldn't have to leave the county?
Well, the Highline program is actually a consortium of a lot of us in around the state.
That's the hub, kind of.
Yeah, it is the hub, and then South Sound Community College as well. So agencies like Holly Ridge have all pooled their support into one campus to do this because it's centrally located.
It is. It's just by the airport.
Yeah. So I'm not sure whether that. However, OC has done other programs that is like they've got the new CODA, which is the Certified Occupational Therapist Assistant. So they are working on the infant toddler side of the house. And we also have staff that are adjunct faculty there. And we will provide opportunities for the students in the early childhood education AA degree. So
I would think that just coming and spending some time with you gives them just an expanded experience for their degree.
we also have the nursing students coming in. We currently have a new set coming in every Monday.
Nice.
And they tag along with our nurse practitioner and our therapist to get a pediatric experience in the community.
We're going to have in Bremerton a residency program with 15 to 25
And I
doctors.
hope to have them come through as well.
And it will be a great marriage. They're going to be part of all the things that we do, public health, private health, the agencies that we have throughout that make a difference in lives. Roxanne, we've learned a lot about what you do and the benefit of having your programs here in Kitsap County, but specifically in Bremerton. Your capital campaign, I hope that people recognize what a difference they can make, and however they're going to have a way of contacting you on the screen. And we're going to be showing throughout our conversation some of the kids that are in the pool and some of the programs that are affiliated with Holly Ridge. So as a final word to our audience, again, as you said, make a friend.
One more thing.
Yes.
Your playground.
Yes.
First community in Kitsap County to have an accessible playground. And it was a partnership between past parents of Holly Ridge Center and the city of Bremerton in making that happen. And that was, I think, a great achievement, awesome achievement from the Holly Ridge perspective and our families. So thank you.
And thank you for the compliment. Because you're a 501c3, all the funds that do go to Holly Ridge, and that's what they had to do, is to have a little agency where they could fund that and make it a deductible contribution for something great.
We partnered on it, yes.
That's tremendous. Thank you for being my guest.
Well, thank you.
And thank you, audience, for learning about a really great program that affects all of us as we live in Kitsap County and the city of Bremerton. We'll see you next time.